Over the past 2 years, the French-American creator Ludwig has been perpetually cursed in pro Valorant, with his team Moist Moguls, or recently MXS, finishing in 3rd place in the region's Challengers League not once, but twice now. One match, one map away from competing in the final tournament of the year in Ascension, where he and his team could bank at least a year or two on the highest stage of Valorant. But this org so far has been struck by the same curse that has plagued fellow content creator Disguised Toast, which I made a video about. You can check it out at the end of this story. But Ludwig's might just be even more heartbreaking, so I knew I had to bring it to you. So let's start with the seed of this esports team, which can be traced back to an entirely different game in Ludwig's past. Melee for him, like so many other esports nerds and my college roommate, was what opened Ludwig's eyes to competitive gaming. So before he rose to live streaming fame, he cut his teeth at locals, trying to get better like any other young adult taking gaming way too seriously. And while he never became a top-ranked player in the underfunded Melee community, he actually first went viral with this Ice Climbers video, as well as running a parody account of a popular Melee caster. And of course from there, the rest is history, as Ludwig moved into content creation and live streaming, eventually becoming the most subbed to streamer ever on Twitch at the time. But through all his sudden fame and fortune from the YouTube deal, he didn't forget his roots in esports, funding a number of different tournaments for Melee and Valorant and other games. But that's when he decided to take on what would become one of his most turbulent and frustrating endeavors ever, as he would finally jump into the esports ring, but this time as the owner of a Valorant team. Partnering with fellow creator Moist Critical, who has run Moist Esports since 2021 and seen success in multiple different games, would build a new team in the chaotic North American Tier 2 scene that had just seen a mass exodus of established brands due to the franchise league starting up. So for Ludwig, this was the perfect time to try and fill that void, and possibly build a team good enough to thread the needle and finish in the top 2 in the region. Then fight through all of Ascension to take home the trophy to qualify for Tier 1 for a whole 2 years, fully legitimizing Ludwig's esports ambitions. The plan was simple. He just needed to first build his founding roster of Moist Moguls. And like a lot of new orgs at the start of 2023, he waited to pick up a team until it became clear which rosters would be competing this year in Challengers, leading to a few free agent teams up for sale at the beginning of the season. So after the second week of Challengers, Ludwig announced the brand new Moist Moguls team, picking up the breakthrough roster that had qualified by breaking the hearts of Stewie 2K and Wardell. This team looked really promising. They'd already taken down Oxygen in their opening match and pushed an extremely experienced G2 team to a map 3. This team was composed of solid Tier 2 talent like IGL Flya or a proto from the old Luminosity team. Players that just hadn't jumped to the next level yet, but were now looking primed to do so with one of the biggest streamers in the world backing them. But right from the first map, Ludwig was thrust into the deep end of esports owner anxiety, as Moist and Turtle Troop, a team at the time rumored to have been in talks to be bought by XQC, went down to the wire on Fracture, with the lead teeter-tottering back and forth the entire time until Turtle Troop were able to end it on a defuse in a second overtime to send Ludwig and his team off on a wrong foot, so close to winning yet so far, something that would just foreshadow the next 2 years of his Valorant life. They went on to lose their org debut to go down 0-2, with the rest of the split not looking any easier, with them needing to win against Shopify Rebellion and FaZe to qualify for the mid-season face-off, something they desperately needed if they want enough circuit points by the end of the season for the final playoffs, where a chance of ascension lies. And this is where Moist Moguls stepped it up, with players like Brock and Thief coming out of nowhere and pulling off insane plays to first get them past Shopify in what would be the closest 3-map series we would see in the entire season, to move it to 2-2. Then to secure their spot in the face-off, they took down FaZe in a 2-0 sweep to finish in 5th. A great spot for a team that were free agents just a few weeks ago. But they weren't just content with their 11 circuit points. They took down TSM to put them in the semi-finals, where only the true contenders for promotion to the big leagues played. And they would need to bring it to the next level as they faced off against one of the favorites, M80, who looked unstoppable in Split 1, with only the guard slowing them down. Now it was Moist's turn, as they looked to be on a roll taking M80's map pick, with a Proto and KJ being unreal on the defense. And they looked to end it in another sweep with them up 8-4. But here's where the curse that was striking DSG at the same time hit Ludwig and the Moist Moguls, as their lead crumbled only picking up 2 more rounds as they were flushed off Pearl, with him in a decisive ascent, once again having the lead at half, but then not showing up to close it out, losing 2-1 to M80 to fall down to elimination after looking like upper finalists. And in the do-or-die match, they were taken out by G2, with him again blowing another lead majorly to finish in 5th, 6th place, just outside the point distribution. But losing in the mid-season face-off didn't mean too much. They just needed to bear down and focus on the upcoming split, as this would determine their fate. And boy did they focus. Going on what for Ludwig must have been a heavenly win streak, going undefeated the entire split against top-tier opponents, beating G2 in their rematch, as well as the Guard in 3 maps, causing people to start putting them as true contenders, especially as they ran through FaZe, TSM, and the Guard in sweeps to make it 1 match away from qualification for one of the 2 NA spots for the Ascension tournament. An improbable run for Moist and Ludwig, possibly already making this investment pay off. And while they would be faced up again against M80, they did have 2 chances. If they lost this, they would play the Guard, who they had just swept, albeit in 2 close maps, for the final chance. And chalk it up to nerves or M80 just figuring out Moist's tendencies, but by the end of Fracture, they were unable to keep up with John QD's calling, as they lost 2-0 to face the Guard in a best of 5, with their entire season hanging in the balance. But Ludwig and Moist were truly cursed. Just look at how this match went down. On their pick of scent, they went down 10-2, with there seeming to be no hope, when they started to pull off one of the best comebacks, putting them within 2-round wins from forcing overtime, when the Guard just get a few blind smoke kills to drag the map across the finish line. But this didn't stop Moist's spirit, as after they went down 12-6, they actually pulled off the rounds they needed to force overtime, but then collapsed right before the victory line, losing in the first overtime to officially destroy Ludwig and his team's mental, missing out on their chance at Ascension in gut-wrenching fashion. As a few months later, they would just have to watch their rivals lift the trophy and march their way to Tier 1. And with Season 1 in the books for Ludwig and the offseason in full swing, he decided to make a smart mogul move and team up with Shopify Rebellion, merging the 2 rosters that had competed so bitterly only months before, to now become Moist x Shopify, going into the 2024 season, with Flya continuing to IGL bringing in Thief and Brock, while Vic and Mata came in from Shopify to create a pretty formidable team going into the season, where after playing well in some offseason events, slowly moved them up to one of the favorites yet again. But no one knew how they would do after this merger until they hit the official servers, which they did against fellow favorites Oxygen Esports. And in Ludwig's second chance to debut in an official capacity in Valorant, they are able to scrape out a win in 3 maps to prove that these 2 were going to be some of the top contenders all season long. MXS finished on top to start 1-0, which they moved into yet another perfect split performance to put themselves in prime real estate to win the mid-season cup, which held serious circuit points. And this all happened while MXS had serious internal issues, with Flya switching off IGL at one point, with their assistant coach Odorous at times leading this team on the server as they released Thief before the season even started. So while a storm was brewing around this MXS team during the first part of the season, they were able to stay perfectly in the eye of it, making it as the top seed in the mid-season cup, which held circuit points that they didn't necessarily need, seeing them fall out in the semifinals on a deciding split that barely didn't go their way. But just like last year, Split 2 was where everything mattered. But against the other group, their regular season dominance that had been seen for the last 2 splits was broken, with them going 2-3, dropping to Sad Esports, Turtle Troop, and M80 to limp into the playoffs, with them in a completely different situation than they were last year. But they were able to get the lucky draw, being placed on the easier side of the bracket, dodging the 2 other favorites until the upper finals. In their openers, they just outclassed Fluffy Aimers and scraped it out in Haven against the collegiate team Blinn, winning both matches in sweeps, with him once again 1 map away from qualification for the Ascension tournament, where they looked to be at the top of the world. Surely Ludwig wouldn't be humiliated once again, right? Well, that's what makes the incoming collapse so much more bone-shaking. They continue to struggle against M80 like last year, as they look like the team destined for Ascension, but were able to go up 9-5 on map 1, but then fell apart with Flya going 1-8 on the attacking side. They persisted as they forced a dramatic overtime, winning 6 of the last 7 rounds, but then like most overtimes with this cursed team, they fell immediately to go down to their last chance to move to the final event of the year, a chance they have been given 4 times now, yet has been unable to cash. and Ludwig just had to watch helplessly as they faced off against a surprise TSM, the antithesis of what Ludwig had been setting out to build in Valorant. And unlike so many works of fiction, the fan favorite couldn't pull it out in the end, as while they won in overtime on Sunset, they were slowly sapped of hope on Ascent and Haven to be eliminated from playoffs in 3rd place, one spot away yet again from taking that journey to Ascension. An absolutely heartbreaking experience for both the players like Brock and Flya, who have been with this team for 2 years now, and for Ludwig, who was unable to change the course of his team on the server. But while other creators might have thrown in the towel and cut their losses after 2 straight years of absolute heartbreak, only moments after the final rounds rang out, Ludwig confirmed that Moist X Shopify will be back next year to once again compete for the lone Ascension spot.
That is tough. Winners finals, we lose to M80, and then we lose in losers finals. We miss out on another Ascension tournament. We got another year to wait. There's only one thing to tweet in a time like this. Shit, dude.
Who knows right now if the roster will remain the same since they were so close to qualifying for the Ascension tournament, but most likely 1 or 2 players will be moved around over the offseason as they try to find the right combination of players, especially as franchise teams release and sign new rosters after failing in their own seasons. Either way, MXS will be a must-watch team in the NA Challengers next year and can hopefully break their dreaded curse. If I asked you to name the best substitutes in pro Valorant history, who would you have? The video here dives into 3 super subs' miraculous journeys that could all take that crown. Or check out the Disguised Toast video I've been talking about. Either way, make sure you subscribe with notifications on so you don't miss out on future esports documentaries like this one.